Hello, and welcome to episode 78 of my Let's Play Kerbal Space program. I am the Great KHM, and I just actually... Go away, shoot. Now, in between episodes, I've installed a number of different mods. I've installed Kethane, Ferrum Aerospace, Deadly Reentry, let's see, what else? I know there's another one. Oh yeah, the Interstellar mod. I've also installed a life support mod, which also kind of means that I had to bring the orange suits back from their timeout and bring them back into the rotation. But the life support mod has an option that prevents respawning of dead kerbin, so I've switched that, so permadeath hopefully will actually now happen. And I have also installed remote tech. So now all unmanned craft require connection either to a crew or a ship with 6 Kerbals on it, or ground control, basically. Or whatever it's called, the Kerbal Space Center. There we go. So, this episode we are going to be putting 6 satellites, communication satellites, into orbit around Kerbal. I can never remember which one's the sun and which one's the planet, but anyway, we're going to be putting 6 satellites in orbit around the planet, and this is the ship that I have built to do it with. Now, I've used a new propulsion system, or the new interstellar propulsion systems that I have unlocked in the satellites themselves, as you can see here. A nuclear reactor, a power generator, and then, what is that called? It's like plasma drive or something. Look it up. Plasma thruster. And I've set it up to use xenon gas. Now, for my test, plasma thrusters don't really seem to be that great, but hopefully it'll be enough for the purposes here. Because life support is now required, I've put enough life support on the ship to last for like 100 days for 6 crewmen. So it should last a while. An interesting little innovation I've come up with the jet lifters is to put a decoupler on the air intake, so that way from going through the stack, or the staging, I can pop off the intake air, which will cause the engine to shut down so it just falls back to the planet. I thought it was kind of an interesting little, or brilliant little innovation, but I don't know, simple. Others probably thought of it. Yes. Oh yes, I've also installed procedural fairings, which I'm using here, which will hopefully do wonders for the Ferrum Aerospace, although that big and clunky this ship is, I don't think it'll help. But thankfully we got a shit ton of jet engines to pick it up, the hard part of the atmosphere. Yes. Let's see. Now what I plan to do is launch this thing, put this into orbit around the planet, and this thing does not actually have enough fuel to get the satellites up into orbit, so I'll be sending a second ship up with it, and they will dock, and I'll have them fly off to the appropriate altitude together. Alright. Now we've kind of entered into post-commentary time. Because this took a really long-ass time, and the game kept crashing on me over and over and over again. So we're just going to do this in post-commentary. At least this part. Anyway, so basically what I'm doing here is I'm currently currently moving the craft up to, moving the craft to 4 megameters out, the apoapsis to 4 megameters. Yes. Normally when I put communication satellites into orbit, I generally try to make them into nice circular geosynchronous orbits, meticulously calculating and positioning the apoapsis and paraapsis. Not doing that this time, just going totally all out lazy. Going out further than geosynchronous orbit, taking advantage of the robot tech, something like that. That mods antennas that have a 5 megameter range, the omnidirectional 5 megameter range. So, putting them out 4 megameters, and what I'm doing is I'm getting the apoapsis up to 4 megameters, and then I'll be bringing the paraapsis up to, let me check my chart here, it's like 2.9 megameters, 2.947 megameters, something like that. Well, actually, I'm not really going by paraapsis here. I'm actually going by the orbital period instead of that this time. I figured I'd give that a try. So I'm going to be moving the craft to the apoapsis of 4 megameters, and then I'm going to be increasing the orbital period to 7 hours, 38 minutes, and 9 seconds. This will allow me to then move the satellites to an orbital period of 9 hours, 9 minutes, and 46 seconds. Nice, evenly split 6 ways. So they'll be exactly the same distance from one another, and they'll orbit at about the exact same time. So they'll always stay in the same position relative to one another. And I think I just blew off my fairings. I like watching the fairings kind of blow off. Anyway, get a good look at the satellites there, all bundled up on the side of the ship. And yes, here I'm increasing my orbital period. As you can see, I have my cursor next to it so I can quickly see which one I'm trying to look at a glance rather than having to pick through all those numbers. And I believe I'm currently increasing that to the 7 hours, 38 minutes, and 9 seconds. Yes, what's that in the background? Oh, those must be the fairings. Okay, I was seeing these 27 kilometers there. I was like, what the hell am I passing next to? That must be the fairings that I just blew off. Yes. Probably the fairings anyway. I know you probably can't tell, but I actually cleaned up the junk that was around the North Pole. You can't really see it because I believe I have a ship currently between us and the planet. But anyway, just something that occurred to me while I'm sitting here looking at the planet. Yes, now this whole operation here, including with all the crashes and redos I had to do. Oh, here's the first satellite being sent off. It took me about 10 hours, so, yeah. I have about 6 hours worth of video because I kept having to redo stuff. Redo parts. Now, if this was going a bit slower, you would notice jumps every now and then, which is from the game crashing. That was not one of those jumps. I believe we're currently watching this at like 64x, so 64 times normal speed, or at least 64 times the speed at which I was experiencing it, because that's what it recorded as. Yes, now this first one had a bit of an issue, because... Are we still even on the first one? No, okay. Never mind. I occasionally had issues where it would not see the 6 kerbinauts in the craft over there as a proper command module, or proper ship that could command these remote-controlled satellites. So I'd have to jump back and forth between them and kind of monkey around with a little bit, pointing satellites around or pointing dishes around to try to get it to accept that as a command system, so that I didn't have to be exactly over the Kerbal Space Center to get this to work. Towards the end, it wasn't really so much of a problem, because I generally had at least one satellite in the chain pointing at the Space Center. But in the beginning, it was a bit of a pain in the rear. As you can see, I discovered the flight computer that comes with remote tech. And it's quite handy. It's, I guess, their version of the Smot Ass from MechJeb. I'm not sure which one we're currently on, though I'd have to say we're probably towards the last one. Yeah, didn't really quite... It's the problem with going at 64x. You can't really tell which segment of this very tedious task I was on. Alright, so as you can see, I've got the satellites nice and evenly placed, forming a nice hexagon of communications. And it's time for our astronauts to go home. First, just double check and make sure I don't have anybody on this stage back here, since I find the hatch. There it is. Okay, cool. It is empty. Sweet. And let's have this thing point retrograde. Flight computer's quite handy. What the hell? Go away. Orbit Festival. And just to make sure that we are being controlled from here. Perfect. And let's set the view back. Just out of curiosity, how much do they have left? Oh, wow. They had way more supplies than I actually thought. Okay. Well, better to have more than not need them than to have too few and need them. Okay, now because we have deadly re-entry, we don't want to just simply drop down onto the planet below. So instead, we actually want it to get about, I don't know, 20 to 30 kilometers. Yes, and this burn is going to take a while, so I'll go ahead and fast forward through it. Okay, that should be a good altitude. Let's see if we can turn this off. Alright. Oh, and we're coming down in the night. Goody. Okay, go ahead and retrograde this. Alrighty then. Things look good so far. I think as soon as I get this thing pointed retrograde, I think I'll detach the back part. Or maybe I won't even wait for that. Okay, keep us pointed retrograde. Alrighty then. Whoa, okay. What's the power being used for? Okay, that's what it was being used for. Okay, and there's the re-entry effects. Alright, now hopefully this will all hold. Looking good so far. There goes that. Okay, and now for shoots. Shoots. There we go. Awesome. Well, this has turned out quite well. And to be a relatively uneventful, I don't know, landing? So far? Re-entry? There we go. Totally uneventful re-entry thus far. Shields worked better than I was expecting them to. That's good. I actually doubled up the shield, the main heat shield here, because I wasn't quite sure how well that would hold up. But glad to see the second one wasn't needed. And that the first one's protecting the parachutes worked out. And we're almost out of power. I wonder what that's being used for. Probably life support. And, okay, yeah. Electrical charge. Well, not totally depleted, but close enough. And we have all 6 of our astronauts here, right? Yep. Indeed we do. Awesome. Well, I think this was a fairly successful mission. We now have communication satellites out there, so we won't have to worry about that when doing interplanetary missions. Because I don't think we have enough life support to actually send our astronauts to other planets. In the next episode, I think we'll be looking at sending probes to other worlds. Yeah, should be interesting. And I'll keep the abrasive shielding on my craft, because they seem to be indestructible. So, by keeping on my craft, I can be sure to get rid of the debris when I recover the vessels. Yip yip yip. Alright. Now let's recover our vessel. And see that we got 0 science. Well, no, wait, we got 0.3 science. Ooh. Nice. Okay. Well, I don't think that's enough to spend it. So once again, I am KHM.